Hi guys, Harry Sunday here, letting you know that there's a apparel company that supports the game that you love. It's called thereisonlyonefootball.com, guys. They've got all sorts of stuff, from caps, t-shirts, water bottles, all sorts of accessories, even for your mobile phone. All that sporting stuff you can wear anywhere you want to wear it, guys. That's right. And don't forget the website it's on, thereisonlyonefootball.com.
There is only one football!
Jim Morano, welcome to Football Astronaut Live right now. They're going to be dancing on the screen with me, guys. Don't worry about that, guys. It's going to happen right now. Hup, check it out. Where's Carlos when you need him, guys? All overseas. Hey, check it out. Hey, Felix. I don't know, man. Hey. Hup, hup. Welcome, guys. What a great show we got tonight, guys. An amazing show, guys. Fantastic. Here we go. Hey. The cup of life. This is the one. Now is the time. Don't never stop. We should've known, gotta be strong. We should've known, right from the top. And when you feel the heat, the world is at your feet, Tony. No one can hold you up. The red card, here we go. Oh my God. I feel it in your soul. You want the cup of life, Gary? Now that the D's here, you're gonna get it, Gary. Do you really want it, Kenny? Do you really want it, Kenny? Are you ready, guys? Here we go. Hey, here we go. Ali, Ali, Ali. Good, good. We are the people. We are the passion. We are the history. We've gone back to the NSL and we're going back to the NSL tonight, guys, with Mr. Gary Cole. It's party time, guys. Let's get back to the NSL. It's our way, the highway, gentlemen. Oh, my God, Gary. Gary, I tell you what, mate. Have you ever heard of any kind of intro like that in your life at any show? Any kind of intro like that? You tell me now. Go on.
No.
I tell you what, mate. Fun and games.
That is very, very unique. I think you got that well and truly covered.
Mate, and the cat said, you can't sing for peanuts. The cat, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? The bloody... I'll fix him in Sydney when I get up there. Don't worry about it.
Mate,
go on.
In fairness, mate, you should have let me know. I never knew that the other two were dressing up for Halloween. But I realised...
Oh, my God. Look at these guys. These two guys here. Tony Goodwin, of course. Have a look at Tony wearing blue. Gary's wearing blue. Tony has to cut... Of course, Kenny has to now put his head in there so they don't see what they're bloody wearing. There you go. Fantastic. Guys, welcome right now. We've got Kenny Wilson. Great Scott, it's Kenny Wilson from Sydney, guys. Welcome, Kenny. And the Socceroo dad right now, of course, all the way from Adelaide. Of course, we're going around the world tonight. That's amazing, guys. Mr. Tony Goodwin, Socceroo dad. And of course, mate, a Socceroo striker, Heidelberg United, Preston, Macedonia. You remember that, Gary? Gary Cole, guys. Welcome, guys. I tell you what, tonight's going to be an eventful night. An eventful night. We've got a lot of people watching tonight, guys. Amazing. Gary, as we spoke to you about 2 years ago, this show has gone leaps and bounds to something very different, of course. And I tell you what, mate, we got rid of some else. I can't say that anyway. I can't say any names. I'll get in trouble. But I tell you what, Gary, your journey, mate, through coming from England with your dad and everything. Mel, I remember that day. That day, I'm going to say it again, guys. Now we got you on video. We had it on phone last time. And I tell you what, 1977, my first Socceroo game at Olympic Park. Jim Shoulder was the coach. I'm sure you didn't really like him, Jim Shoulder. And, of course, mate, Peter Lumitz, Chris Califatidis. I remember Chris Califatidis. And what happened was they booed him coming on the field against Greece. They booed him. They bloody booed him as a Socceroo because he played against Greece. They didn't like it, the Greeks. And I'm sure you remember the Greeks that day, don't you, of course?
I do. They filled up the stadium. The stadium was a sea of white and blue because there was no such thing as scarves or anything. The only person in the stadium that had a bit of green and gold on was someone with a scarf and it had been knitted by their granny. That was it. So we were booed onto the pitch in the most friendly manner because the crowd was made up of Heidelberg and South Melbourne fans in the main. So mate, it was good.
I was behind the goals as a 15-year-old, waving my green. I was there, Gary. I could not believe I was there, mate. And I'm watching you score this goal. Tell us about this goal you scored that day. Tell us about that goal. It was a cracker. You reckon it's a cracker?
Well, it was a cracker because it gets a little bit further out every time the story gets told. I think I was just a step in over the halfway line and I rifled one and it screamed into the bottom corner. But no, I think it was just outside the box, good piece of play, and we went 1-0 up against Greece, which was a bit of a surprise to everyone.
Mate. Sadly,
it was good.
Gary, sadly, we've lost that historical ground. Of course, that was the ground that was supposed to be the iconic ground for the game in Australia, and we lost it. That was terrible, wasn't it? Remember that day, those days?
Yeah, well, it's a Collingwood AFL.
Right,
it's their training facility now.
Exactly.
And Amy Park's next door. But
it
was a great home.
Fantastic game for the game in Australia, actually. And we're talking about how many Socceroo games have played there. So many there. That was the thing about that.
Yeah, Socceroos and the Victoria, of course.
Exactly.
Back in those days, like Sydney, the state team played probably 4 or 5 times a year with touring teams. Would come out, and that was part of the fundraising for the member federations back in the day.
It was. Let me ask you about this right now. Did you ever get it on the field for Victoria against Cosmos?
Yeah, the first time they came.
So how did you feel get on
the field? Played against Niskins. Yeah, it was great. I've got a great picture of me walking, sort of admiring. What's his name? The German Beckenbauer, Franz Beckenbauer. Instead of running around like a chicken with no head, trying to stop him passing the ball forward, I've got a picture of me sort of admiring him passing the ball into midfield. But it was a big day out. Everyone marked him. Jimmy Campbell and about half of the team spent the last 15 minutes marking Franz Beckenbauer to get his shirt. Mate. Jimmy Campbell's got it. Franz Beckenbauer's got Jimmy Campbell's shirt made by Buffalo Sports, framed above his mantelpiece in Germany.
Oh, my God.
And if you believe that, I got a second-hand car for sale.
Oh, and I tell you what, mate, was Pele there? Chinaglia was there. What about him? Unbelievable. Was he there?
Yeah, Chinaglia was there. Pele wasn't. He didn't come. Johan Niskin scored a bloody thunderbolt. I played Carlos Alberto, who was a Brazilian captain at the time.
God.
Played at the back. I've got his shirt. He's got mine.
Fantastic.
Well, Chinaglia owned the club then, didn't he?
Oh, mate.
By then, Chinaglia had bought the club. Bought most of it. Yeah, he was the... Mate, Carlos Alberto, that 1970 Brazilian team, it doesn't get any better than that. The last goal, shelf. The build-up when Pele holds it up, and he does an over. Back in the days when right full-backs got forward, right? No wing-backs, right back,
I'll bring Tony on. Tony?
Yeah, Gary, you've got a pretty distinguished career, I guess, over the many, many years of the Socceroos. And one thing I did learn today, you actually held the original record for the most number of goals scored in the game against Fiji, 7. And, of course, Archie Thompson ruined that record for you.
God.
he just beat it by 6.
Yeah, but I think the difference in the sides they were playing are a little bit different as well. But you've also got a lot of admin with Victory in Sydney as well behind the scenes, and also a pretty good coaching career as well. That obviously you're used to scoring goals over the many years. What's the sort of goals you see, I guess, with the way we're bringing juniors through in the A-League at the moment, especially with Central Coast and Adelaide blooding a lot of young ones?
Yeah, look, it's really interesting, Tony. I grew up when I was a target man, back to goal merchants, but most of my life facing the goal I was defending, trying to get a turn in to run forwards. And I think when I finished playing and went to the AIS, Ronnie Smith, Dr. Smudger, said, Coley, go and have a look at these videos. Go and have a look at this striker and this striker and this striker. And I worked out that the best strikers in the world were actually facing forward more often than they were facing backwards, which was a little bit late for me. But the game went through that big transition. And I think that's the most significant thing today, that because the game's possession-based, obviously transition, people are quick to get on the end of things that are played in over the halfway line. But more and more, they're just, teams get the ball out wide and will try and whip it in behind defences. And strikers have got to get on the end of it. For me, I was working hard to get in the spaces. My striking partner, Jamie Payton, Jamie had a gift. He would be unbelievable today because he knew where the ball was coming. For me, I was always sprinting around, running somewhere as fast as I could to get on the end of it. Jamie he knew the ball came into the box, and he would take a step back, he'd take a step forwards, he'd take a step sideways, and he'd go bonk from 3 yards out and tap the ball in the goal. So I genuinely think it's a different skill today. I've been watching who's the big Belgian guy just signed for the Italian team. What was it? The captain of Belgium, whose name escapes me right now. Anyway, he's an old-fashioned striker. He plays with his back to goal. He's so strong, he holds people off. And if you think about that, Tony, around the world, how often do you see that today?
Very rare. I think Socceroo is one for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Haaland obviously does it.
Yeah.
There's Haaland and probably Ivan Toney when he gets back from suspension.
Bloody hell.
Mate, I can't believe they suspended him 6 months because he played fantasy league. I mean, really
unbelievable.
Anyway,
on the punt, but yeah. So look, it's definitely a different thing. The thing that I think has changed is coaches. For me, coaches need to really get a grip because sports, everything's measured today. They've got wellness apps on their phone, and it's this is a bit tight, or you've done this, that, and the other. But back when I played, I think the best players in the world practiced. The best strikers in the world, they were out there practicing before training, after training. They just got used to being in positions where they could stick the ball in the back of the net. When I went to Preston, Warren Spink came out of the AIS, and I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I'd never seen a young man so composed in a penalty area, and he spent his career passing the ball into the goal. He was absolutely unbelievable, but he didn't want to go to work, and he didn't want to go to school. He just used to take a bag of balls into the hall, put 2 cones, kick the ball against the wall, control it, pass it into the corner, and you wonder, even in the full-time environment, how many of our strikers spend time doing that sort of thing.
Gary, let me just tell you right now, exactly what you're saying is that if you look at let's go to a different sport for the time being, Sir Donald Bradman. When he used to take out a little golf ball and he used to hit it against the wall at home with a stump, my God, man. And that's like... that's exactly what you're saying. It's like practice your eye coordination. I mean, this is amazing what he's to do. So this is very similar to what you're saying, practicing your eyes, looking at the ball all the time, stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of kids now want to be good, don't they? But they don't practice to be good. They just want to be good. But you've got to go. I mean, I remember when Craig was at Adelaide Croatia Raiders, they had to turn the lights off so they could all go home. He wouldn't get off the park.
Mate.
Just taking constant free kicks. But, it's a lot of kids, they dream about being a footballer, but they don't go about working hard enough to be one. It's
they can get, the easy bits is to get the hairstyles and the fancy coloured boots. You know, that's the easy bit to get. It's the hard work bit all the time. That's always the tough bit to get across.
Training sessions now, they're always, when I look at the data and the training sessions that they have, every step, every K, all their speeds, they're all calculated, and then they have a base level to reach, and they must reach that base level or improve on it every training session. And it's mapped out for everyone. They can't cheat. Literally, they're being watched every move they make, and it's all electronic.
Yeah,
exactly. The guy that came up with the concept that the goalkeeper should be your 11th outfield player, whoever he was. And if we can find out whoever he was, then he should be absolutely castrated. I just want. I'm a Chelsea supporter, right?
Yep.
And I'll just give you an example.
Me too, unfortunately.
They're winning 2-0. English Premier League, the best and the most prolific league in the world. 2-0 up, and the goalkeeper passes it straight to a player at Arsenal that hasn't scored in 27 years. Dead set.
Unbelievable.
And you know what it's like, guy. 2-1, you're under pressure, right? Then, and I'm a bit of a Brighton fan. I'm watching it tonight again.
Yes.
They're winning 1-0, and the Brighton goalkeeper passes it to a midfield player with his back to goal, edge of the box, and he loses it. Goal, 1-1. Sydney FC last week, same thing. Passed the ball at the edge of the box, Bratton. With his back to goals. The guy just went that tick goal. What is people thinking about? What's the coaches saying?
Wasn't it the old days the same as the Latin American players, the Latin players, where the goalies were coming out all the time and everything, and they were scoring against them? That's going back to the past, isn't it, Gary? I mean, that's the old days where those guys used to come out, Rene Higuita and all these guys, and I mean that's the thing.
Yeah, I went to a game a couple of weeks ago. I think it was Sydney FC. Mate, the goalkeeper kicked it out, and I stood up and applauded. Dead set. Honest to God, I stood up and clapped. I gave him a standing ovation. I went,
okay, well done, gentlemen. I got a message for you guys right now, and it's coming from the King, boys. It's coming from the King, right? So I got to read this to you right now. Goalkeepers are frustrated strikers. There you go, Kenny. There you go. There you go, boys.
This is a fact.
Of course they are.
Goalkeepers get more touches with their feet than centre forwards. That's where the problem with the game is today.
Right.
That coaches are allowing that. Not the best teams. I mean, the Liverpools and the Man Cities, they transit the ball super quick. But the teams that try to copy it don't transit quick enough and don't do it properly.
Go on.
But seriously,
But wasn't it the change of rules where they couldn't go backwards anymore and they could pick up the ball and all this? They've had more of the ball in their hands. Now they can't pick it up anymore, so they've got to find a way of getting it out again. So maybe that's changed. It's changed.
Don't pass the bloody thing backwards. Go forward.
No, it's this obsession with possession. It's
what it is.
It's about possession. You've just got to have possession of the ball at the back, in the middle, up front, and
exactly.
Yeah. The flip side of that is if you're really good at pressing against the teams that want to let's call it what it is, fannying around at the back. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of teams that are great at playing out, but it doesn't make any sense. If you continually pass the ball to people facing the wrong way, they don't see where the defender's coming from. And I reckon in the Champions League, the English Premier League this weekend, and the A-League, there would have been 10 goals scored from that sort of turnover, or a bad pass. But it just seems to be that that's okay because ultimately we're going to pass the ball out from the back. And all power to the coach because Andrew's like it as well. But at the moment they're getting away with the ones at the back. And he's like, well, if we lose a goal that way, that's okay. We'll score another 2 and we'll win 2-1 or 3-2 or 5-3 or whatever it is.
Absolutely. Now, Gary, to ask you right now, mate, the positions that you've got right now, Gary, you're getting involved more in the game than you were in the past. What is happening with the CEO of the Coaches Association? Mate, what are you doing here? You become a celebrity as well online. You're doing shows and everything. What's happening here?
Yeah, well, my ultimate goal is to replicate your show on Facebook.
Mate, I've got to get you the same clothes. Don't forget, you've got to wear my clothes, mate.
It's a takeover bid. No, I am the acting CEO of Football Coaches Australia. I don't want to be. I was actually accepted the president's role a month ago, but our CEO, I will say, not as a result of me becoming president, but Glenn Worry, who helped build Football Coaches Australia from like 7 years ago, has decided it's time to move on, and in a volunteer organisation with no employed staff, the oldest one that's the most retired takes over. So I'm monitoring 4 email addresses, and the good news is we appointed a new CEO this week. We're just going through the bits and pieces, and we're back to normal in a week or so. But look, it's a great honour representing the coaches, whatever way you want to shake it. I'm not quite sure where all this came from, but I believe Australia is one of the worst countries in the world for the way we respect coaches, or don't respect coaches is probably the best way I can describe it. So we're going to keep on working to help them get better represented in the professional game and beyond all that. So plenty of work to do, plenty to keep us busy. Tony.
Yeah, you look at like what Ange has done, I guess, for Australian coaching on the stage, as well as Muscat and a few other coaches that have gone around the world and done their stuff. It's going to bring the spotlight back on Australia, that maybe we're not just that little backwater. And like, I mean, even though I didn't like Palace losing to Tottenham the other night, but the fact that I'd love to see Ange win the league with Tottenham. I mean, mainly because it will really put us in the spotlight, and it will make it, I think it'll be a real bonus for our coaches we've got here in going forward. And even when Ange is finished, if he could come back to Australia and maybe put back into the coaching and maybe even coach the coaches. I just think, when we look at our junior level, we just don't have enough coaches that have enough input into the game, that gave to the game years ago and wanted to get back into it. And again, the respect for some of our absolute geniuses like Raleigh and stuff, there should be a statue, for blokes like that, for what he done for world football in Australia. It's just a shame that they don't honour them the way they should be.
Exactly. And coaching. Yeah, again, I'm not quite sure why that is, Tony, but a game doesn't respect history very well. You look at down here is the AFL and up in Sydney, the rugby league. They don't seem to let good people drift away from the game, and they seem to honour their past, and they do a really good job at that. And I can't explain why, but our game as a whole doesn't recognise the history particularly well, which is sad. But coming back to Ange, if I can, because I'll push the coach's barrow. Yes. There's a saying that you can't be it if you can't see it. And I think, in the first 10 games, no coach, doesn't matter where they came from on earth, has had a better start in the first 10 games for a Premier League season. And that's remarkable. We're all been around the block once or twice, so we all know that it will come to an end at some stage. I hope it doesn't. I hope he can go through the season undefeated. But he's got a big half a dozen games coming up and this, that and the other. But it's absolutely remarkable, one, to see him there, and two, no one in their wildest dreams, I think, apart from Ange and maybe his family, could have predicted, the sort of start they've had at Tottenham, which has not been one of the... I get they've got more money than perhaps half of the other clubs, but their performance on the field with their coaches over the last few years has been pretty ordinary. So right now you've got Ange, you've got Kevin Muscat in Japan, Tanya Oxtoby, who's a fantastic female footballer, was at Bristol City in the Super League over there. She's now the national manager in Northern Ireland. You've got Joe Montemuro running things with Juventus over there. And there are a lot of other people that are in coaching roles in Europe that, we don't know about because they weren't the sort of big names that we do know. So I think what it does mean, Tony, is that if you're into coaching here right now, you're entitled to be able to go, well, if Ange can do it,
exactly.
I might not have the skills yet, but why can't I do it? Why can't I go and coach at Manchester United? Well,
exactly.
Actually, you two might get a job at Manchester United, if things don't change there. But why can't people dream? Because it's been done, and hopefully it's the beginning.
Gentlemen, I have news for you here. These people are talking to me tonight, and you guys don't see this, but I see this. I'm going to tell you right now, Kenny, and you know who this guy is. He's got a brand new name, the Oracle of the Game. The Oracle of the Game in Australia, of course. You know who that is, of course. And of course, I think Now, someone says,
Roger.
now, Roger's, the Oracle, I've got to call him the Oracle. Don't call him Roger, call him the Oracle, please. He's probably laughing right now. He says, the game is run by NPN Football. Now, NPN Football, with no passion for the game in its history. NPN, who's it? No, what do they call NPN? Who are that? That's a code word, guys. He doesn't want to swear, I'd say. That's the thing. So that's the thing about that. There you go. So there you go. That's the thing. So we got
well, guys. Unfortunately, we've created a monster for ourselves because we are the most participated sport in the world, but especially in Australia. So we've created this monster income stream for people that really, I mean, there's a lot of good ones, but geez, there's a lot of shockers. I mean, there's a lot of people getting an income out of a game that really, are should be going to people. We've got guys. I mean, like obviously Gary's sort of back in the game again, bouncing back forth. So Gary's in the game. There's a lot. Jimmy Campbell. I mean, guys that played in his team. His Fitzroy Heidelberg team. There's 5 or 6 of them that should be in the game. Marconi, Tony Henderson is not in the game. There's heaps of them. I mean, I don't know where Ivanovic is going from Adelaide City. I don't know what he's doing. He was a genius. Nastevsky, Des Martin. Fortunately, they two do a bit of coaching clinics with Billy Pawlowski. Now, he's one of the few ones, that I know that if I had a kid, I'd send them to them because you get Billy Pawlowski is a brilliant defender. You've got Nastevsky, brilliant midfield player, and Des Martin, brilliant striker. If you sent your kid there for 2 weeks, they can't possibly knock him away with him being a far better player. But some of these other ones, Jesus Christ, they take the family's money and they get a T-shirt and a ball and they come back and they're worse than what they went before they went.
Oh boy,
But unfortunately, that's the burden of the beast. We've got no control over all these, these clinics and coaches per se. There's a lot of these guys, have paint pictures of careers and then when you dig deep and you go, really? I mean, there's a few stories I won't tell you on air, but Raleigh has had some great stories of people coming up to him and say, do you remember when, Raleigh, I played for you? And Raleigh would say, he said, you couldn't be any good because I don't remember you. That was Raleigh.
Oh, my God. That's amazing. Oh, guys, I tell you what, now, Gary, also, have you contacted, I think, Football Australia, trying to get back the, of course, the Centre of Excellence in Canberra? We need to bring that back, and I know the miracle work that you did with Smudger. Of course, old Smudger there. I got to get him back on for sure. Now, come on, we need to bring our players back. We need to get these guys, the Vidukas, the Kuehls, all these guys. We've got to do something to bring our players back to where they should be.
Well, look, I would, but it's clearly not my decision. I think I worked for Football Australia for 6 months with my old mate Ernie Merrick. Yes. I was brought on board to set up National Academy, which is to roll out a program that sort of Football Queensland have got an academy up there. Not perfect because I'm not sure there is a perfect model, but they're doing some really good things in Queensland. And I was brought on board to apparently roll that out nationally. And then the game decided that there wasn't enough money to do that. So I went back to being retired.
Oh.
But this is the thing that I learned during that. So FIFA appointed Arsene Wenger, 2019, something like that. He's the King Poobah of football development across the globe. And they've done a whole bunch of research, particularly through COVID. And Arsene said to the world, not just to the undeveloped countries, to the world, by 2026, every country in the 238 countries that play football, whatever it is, everyone should have at least one national centre of excellence. And the purpose for that is to bring the best together with the best, to train and play against the best. Now, that doesn't mean we don't need academies at A-League clubs and we don't want the member feds to stop doing that. But it just means if we want the players that are getting towards the pointy end, the more time that they can spend training and playing with and against the best, what do they say? A rising tide raises all ships.
Yep.
And I think the AIS proved that. And we had a great model that not only did we have the AIS, we had the State Institute of Sports, and essentially the AIS was set up for our under-20s, and the State Institutes was set up for under-17s. Occasionally there was a cracking underage one, and whoever, Ernie Merrick, if he was at Victoria, or any of the other coaches would call Ronnie and say, Smudger, we've got a cracker here, you should have a look at him. So you had this structure where they were getting more of the best, training and playing with the best in the States, and then the pick of those were coming through into the national team. Back when, of course, there was some youth football played at a national level as well from time to time. And for me, that really helps people get there. It's not the only way of doing it. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying the A-League clubs shouldn't have academies, because I think the more people we've got with better coaches, because that to me is the key. You know, if you Kenny made a comment before about the number of academies that are out there, and I can't begrudge. You know, coach education in Australia costs a bloody arm and a leg. So if you're a coach and you've gone and spent thousands of dollars getting a qualification, and you can't get a gig in a club, or you can't get a long-term gig in a club, because if you lose a couple of games, you're out on your ass. Yes. They go, well, if I want to make a full-time living at the game, I'll set up an academy.
That's what they.
So, but no one wants to police all that.
That's right.
But for me, Harry, to get back on track, would I do it? Yes, I would, because I think the runs are on the board, and I'd do it for men and women, and you do it at those younger age groups, and hopefully the A-League clubs do it. You know, and if you look, obviously Craig, Tony's son, came through Adelaide. Now the South Australian Football South Australia have had an academy running for 10 or 12 years for, I think they're 13, 14, 15-year-old boys and girls. They train together 3 or 4 nights a week. They play on the weekend together. Adelaide United doesn't have an academy program for under 16s. They inherit the best of the best from the South Australian program and go on through. And, you know, I think watching them play on the weekend with the kids they've got coming through, unbelievable. I'm just going to hazard a guess and say that program's working pretty darn well. Oh, boy. You're watching Nestor Irakunda, and, of course, Tony, you would have been there watching that kid. Is that right? Is he hot property or what, Tony? Come on. Watching the game on the weekend, knowing... In the, I guess the NPL side that they do run, they have a second youth team plays in the NPL, and a lot of kids play in that. But then you've got the young kids that have actually come through the actual youth team. They got 2 coaches there with Ayrton Andrioli and Elvis Markov, 2 excellent coaches. Craig did work under Ayrton many years ago when Ayrton ran the Kerber Academy. And he was also under Elvis as well, and Elvis was a really good disciplinarian. So with that setup, it's like you've got a good cop, bad cop type of coach situation, and those kids don't get away with hell, because Elvis will tear them a new one if they misbehave. So it's which is great. You know, it's I mean, Craig had to go to Melbourne to get notice because he got cut from the state system back then, because the prerequisite, but he had to be 6 foot tall or 14 to go to the Nationals, and Craig was one of the smallest. So, but who cares? You know, like the path worked for him just a bit longer. But the one thing that does concern me, that this is like a 2-part question, is when you look at the way our game's exploding, and we are the biggest sport by a long way in Australia. Now, I go around to all the different clubs and watch the MPL games, and I do ask, out of curiosity, I ask the different committees, how many kids did you turn away? And I know one club in South Australia, they said there was 250 kids they did not have positions for. And so I just thought, right, if you've got, say, 36 teams in your third divisions of play, and they turn away, say, 50 each, that's a lot of kids, and we're just about now, especially with this new season coming, which will be next year for juniors. How big is it going to get after the success of the or the Socceroos, but also the Matildas mainly, because they've exploded the game in this country, and more kids are going to be turned away. Exactly. But then, of course, your coaches, if the kids do get in, and we've got to be begging for coaches, what, I guess, in the role you're now in, are they looking at just the coaches that are already in the system to manage, or do they come up with strategies that actually look after how we're going to bring coaches through at a junior level and then improve it from that foundation? Tony, I don't believe there's a strategy for coach development. There's a strategy for coach licensing, because that's the goose that lays the golden egg. Yeah. So the thousands of coaches that go through the coach licensing program run by Football Australia and the member feds, that produces a revenue stream for them. All of that. Football Australia, particularly Football Australia, in the last probably 5 months have been running Monday night workshops for coaches, because during COVID, every 3 years you've got to develop 100 points, continuing professional development. So, but the member feds and Football Australia don't do a lot of that. The member feds run their annual coaching seminars, and people pay and go along to that. But that's a space that Football Coaches Australia sort of filled in, particularly through COVID. We were running workshops; they'd be approved by Football Australia, so the ongoing education sort of sat with us. But what I don't see, I'm yet to see, and I worked with Football Australia for a while. And don't get me wrong, Ernie's built a great team, and they're doing some great things, albeit couldn't get the money to do the player development part of the job that they wanted him to do. But they are improving that coach licensing pathway. But who helps the coaches develop? So because I'm a logical son of a bitch, you go, for me, there's a couple of things happen. Someone like Craig, who loved the game, probably because he grew up in your house, and you loved the game, and he was always doing it somewhere, somehow. So part of that is cultural. A big part of that is cultural. And then there's the learning bit. So, I'm going to assume you played, Tom?
No, it's funny. Cricket was my main sport when I was younger. My dad did when he played a little bit, like amateur level in England. When he came out to Australia, he played like at the Orange Sturt in Adelaide here, which I think is now Sturt Line, which has moved. Yeah. But my dad loved the game, but he passed away when Craig was a year old, so we never got to see him play. But but he loved the game passionately. So I mean, that's where all Crystal Palace fans come from, Croydon area. So,
so that the love of the game comes there, and then the practice comes, and some kids practice more than others, and then you get to a point where you've got technique, and I think. Imagine the experience that if you take your kid down to play, and you've got 3 different kids. They're all, let's call them 8 years old. Here's little Johnny that's never kicked a ball in his life. He saw the Matildas on the weekend or in the World Cup, and he wants to play football. And he might have had a kick in the backyard with his dad sort of toe poking it around, or his mum or his sister or his granny or whatever. Then you've got the other extreme. You've got a kid that's grown up in this house that loves the game, that they watch it on TV, they do it, and every waking moment they're dribbling the ball around the house, or they're dribbling around the rose bushes in the garden and breaking the occasional window.
You watch him to get...
And then maybe you've got the one in the middle. But if you think about those kids, their first day when they rock up to training, who's going to have the most fun at training that night? It's not going to be the kid that can't control it, can't move it, can't pass it. They've got an awful lot of catching up to do. So, that for me, there's a place there for player development to where we could, because I'm not sure any of the sports are doing it for really youngsters. That Tom Byer, mate in Japan, has got that football starts at home program, which I just love. It's all about the culture of kids, and from a very young age, teaching them something on the ball. But this is a very long answer here, but I'm getting back to the point. I remember what I was talking about. That at some point, when kids play, they come across, if they're really lucky, good coaches that can help them learn behaviours, maybe improve on some technique, but understand the tactics of the game and the behaviours that they're going to need to play at the next level and the next level and the next level. Unbelievably unusual to find a player that goes to the top level that hasn't had a good coach or 2 or 3 through that process. So if it's so important for us to help the players get better, how do we help the coaches to get better?
That's it.
And there isn't a plan to do that.
The first thing we've got to do is we've got to stop funding the game from the bottom up.
Yes.
And unfortunately, like you just mentioned earlier, Gary, that it's more of an income stream from a coaching perspective to get as many people through there. And like you said, it's not a cheap process. to get a coaching badge or coaching license. And unfortunately, you know, in amongst all that, you know, at some stage in any job, you know, no matter what it is, you know, if you're going to make a career of it, you've got to have ability. You can't, you know, just because you spent the money on you know, getting a coaching badge or a coaching license, you've gone there and you've gone under certain people, you know, who have taught you what they know, but probably, to be perfectly frank, their expertise wasn't that great either. And you get to a point where, you know, some of these people are then getting into the marketplace and want to make a career of it. And good luck to them. You know, they're being allowed to do it. But if that was in any other employment scenario, you know, to be able to do that at a full-time professional level, you need to be good. You got to, you know, you've got to have a. It's not all about, you know, you've got to. I mean, I don't necessarily mean you need to have played at the top level, but you need to have played. You need to know the game. You need to understand the game. You know, you could have left the game injured early in your career, or you know, or at least, you know, you have a great understanding of the basics of the game. We don't drive, in my opinion, you know, in the last 10 or 15 years, we keep driving, you know, the natural ability of kids. We're getting them too regimented. You know, we're telling them, no, you can't do that. Go sideways, go backwards, whatever. Don't take them on. Don't do that. You know, we've got to encourage certainly attacking players to take chances. You know, that's what's for me. That's what makes the game exciting. A bland team to watch, passing it sideways, passing it back, and keeping the ball. It's no good entertainment. It's no good. It's no good to watch, and it's difficult to understand how, you know, we've put up with it. To be honest, in the last probably 10 years, and look, don't get me wrong, there's good ones out there, but I mean, I see clinics all over the place that have been set up, and they've got 15 and 16 and 17-year-old kids are the coaches. It's out of order. It's gone like the lunatics have got the keys to the asylum.
Yeah. And Kenny, this is exactly, I've seen that many, and of course Gary and of course Tony, that many of these academies come on and saying, hang on for a second, you've got an academy, what have you done in coaching, what have you done in the game? And this is the problem here. There's that many academies. Why? How can they be policed, Gary? How can they check these guys out who've got a coaching certificate and how they got it and stuff like that too? That's the other thing.
Well, this is the dilemma with policing stuff. So if you're talking now about governance, so and the truth is, no one. I've never met anyone at Football Australia or in the member feds that has any intention of gearing up to police all that stuff. I'm going to assume cost inhibitive. We keep talking about how expensive the game is. Yes. You want to have another level in to police all that, where you would think, you know. But I don't know. I've never had a kid that's been in an academy. My youngest daughter's a professional basketballer, and we did pay for a little bit of private coaching from her when she was a junior. And to be fair, we worked with some people and we didn't work with others because it was clear to us that some of them were good and some of them weren't so good, and we stopped to going to the ones that weren't so good and paid for a few more lessons with the ones that were a bit better than that. But that's the challenge. So if we had this never-ending pot of money, as Kenny said before, you know, the problem is the game's bottom-up funded, and it is. But, you know, how do we change that? That's the challenge. The billion-dollar TV deals that the AFL does, and I'm going to assume the ARL does, enables them to have money that trickles down through the game. Yes. For us, you know, it doesn't matter. God only knows how many millions came into the coffers at head office during the World Cup. But not too much of that trickles down. And then you see people say, oh, you know, that we've got the most kids playing. Our state government should pay for the kids to play. And you go, how the bloody hell can that work? It shouldn't be a government's job to pay for the kids to play. But it is the job sport. We keep hearing people say we need to make it cheaper to play because that's more kids. But then right now, have we got enough facilities for boys and girls to play the game? My guess is no, because we've got, you know, we are the biggest game from a participation basis, but we're not the biggest game in terms of the way we deal with local government, state government, federal government.
Yes.
You know, the big boys play that game really, 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 really well.
Oh, yes.
So our clubs don't always get maybe what they should get. But there's a game to be played politically off the park as well.
Yeah, but we accept, well, sadly we accept that our kids play from April to August. They play 17 or 18 games. 17 or 18 games, you're getting warmed up. You know, it's not even half a season compared to Europe or anywhere. You know, I mean, I was just back, and my nephew, you know, his amateur team play 46 games.
Yeah.
46 games amateur. You know, I mean, 17 games, you know, they finish on the 24th of August, certainly in Sydney they do, and then some of them go and play, you know, 6-a-side futsal comps that they cram, you know, they get 5 grounds and cram 9 million people on it for a revenue perspective. But futsaling, look, I'll argue all day long. I mean, I won national futsal, so I won that and I won the National League. Futsaling and outdoor are completely different. You know, it's a completely different game. It's like playing basketball and playing soccer. You know, I know a lot of great futsal players that couldn't play 11-a-side. Absolutely couldn't play 11-a-side. Yeah. And I know a lot of 11-a-side players can't play futsal. So, you know, they say, oh, but, you know, you get a better touch. Yeah, you sort of do. But it's a different mentality. You've got to be able to play in 11-a-side. You've got to be able to play short. You've got to be able to open the game up as well. You know? It's different. Exactly. But a point I was going to make about, you know, if it's not broken, you know, don't fix it. We don't have a scouting system in this country. At all. All the professional, really top professional players that we should have in the game, like, and I'm talking about mostly the A-League clubs, you know, they should have scouts all over the place. I mean, when I was a kid, I went to Man United, I went to, you know, Ipswich, Liverpool. And I was going to clubs every school holidays for 2 weeks. From when I was 14 till I signed with Rangers. Every school holidays, fully paid, went there, trained with the clubs. That's how I met Kenny Taylor when I was 15. He was at Ipswich Town. You know, that's how it works over there, and it still works like that. You know, so they've got scouts that go and watch school football, boys' brigade, you know, whatever. But they're out there hard yards watching players, and they approach them and say, "Look, I think this kid's got a bit of talent. Let's take him." So, like Sydney FC, you know, Melbourne, they all should be doing that. To the best of my knowledge, they don't. You know, they get it through a SAP or but that comes back to your ability to pay as a family, because your kids don't go through that if you don't get money.
Gentlemen, the oracle,
be connected.
The oracle of the game has spoken again, guys. I've got to tell you this right now. Okay. Now he says here, to think Gary Cole wasn't retained by the FA is a travesty of justice. Now the thing is, Gary, why the hell these people see you as a former player, Socceroo, played right through the NSL, and not keep you there? Not keep you there. It's just ridiculous. Not to have the former players involved in the FA long enough to be able to change things. I know Ernie Merrick's there, you're telling me, but why can't we get enough of those guys in there, like yourself?
I mean, they're all insecure. Well, they don't want someone that's got great ability.
There you go.
No. To be fair, I was employed to roll out, as I said, this national program, but they decided they never had the money to be able to roll out. Jesus. So if there's no job to do, then there's no job to do. Coming back to the other bit, look, I think, hopefully you know me well enough to know I'm always prepared to talk about what I think can be improved in the game, but I also don't want to smash people to bits here either. But is it because no one taps former players on the shoulder and says, you know, you should, if you buckle down, you should stay in the game, even if you don't want to coach, because you can make a difference. So I see Brisbane. I was going to say Brisbane United. What do we call them nowadays?
Brisbane Roar. The Roar.
Brisbane Roar, sorry. Brisbane Roar. Kaz Patafis, now the CEO and managing director. Now, Kaz, obviously, he was a really, really talented youngster, went to Portugal, got signed in Portugal, had great Victory, brought him back. He had a couple of seasons at Victory and then moved on. And he probably never had the professional career that maybe Kaz and maybe, you know, a whole bunch of people thought he might have had. And he went off and became a lawyer. But now he's come back and he's running one of our A-League clubs. And you go, for me, I'm like, How good is that? That's fantastic. You look at the way that players are educated today, and I'm sure Tony can attest to this with Craig. The PFA are in all of the clubs offering players education about this, education about that, and creating. I think there's even some funding for people to start businesses and do a range of different things. But is it whose responsibility is it that there's not more players in at head office or in at their member federation or in at their clubs? Part of that, I think, is the way that we respect it. I don't know if we talk about it often enough, or when people are finished, they just go, you know what? I've had 35 years at this. I'm going to go and raise a family and get myself a bigger mortgage and do something else. So it is hard to pull the finger. The bit that we all know works is that if you've been in the game, if you've played in the game, you've coached in the game, you just have this understanding that can make things a bit better, as opposed to people that are just a good sports administrator. They come in and they can do these administrative things, but they don't see this. They don't have a feeling for that. They don't necessarily understand that. That's not to say they can't get those things, because obviously the more time you spend in, hopefully you're getting some help along the way. So I think it's a tough call. Should there be more former players, coaches in the game? Absolutely, there should be. I think the game will be better off as that happens, both men and women. How we do it, yeah, that's out of my pay grade.
And I'll bring Tony on a sec, but what I'll tell you right now is that to be able to bring these guys back into the game, they have a high profile as players. People remember them as players and everything, which means the popularity is even higher of these guys coming in, and people will look at them and say, oh, look, he's now president there, he's now the CEO there and stuff like this. Big name people. I mean, if you look at some of these European clubs and you've got the former players in there, and you've got, who's that fantastic player that played for, of course, Real Madrid, Emilio Butragueño, right? Mate, isn't he the CEO or something there? My God, man, a name like that in the game at a club like that, the popularity of the club raises and more people seem to come. And Emilio Butragueño, unbelievable there. That's the name. That's the sort of names you need at clubs also. For God's sakes, there's a lot of guys like that we need in the game. I know it's difficult for them coming to Tony and yourself. You know, we're talking about names like this in the game, Tony, that will bring the game even higher. That's the thing, Tony, you know?
Yeah, that's the problem. Harry, this is the problem with probably the A-League, that there's no history for the A-League. That's right. You know, and when you've no history, you've no got player history, right? I mean, it goes back to 2005, but the reality is, you know, that when you've got a long history like in Europe and, you know, 30 and 40 years, and, you know, it's a different animal from that perspective. But I suppose, you know, the smart money would, for me, if I was running a club like, you know, Sydney FC or the Wanderers, I think, to be honest, I think Central Coast do a really good job. I think you know, they've captured, considering the budget, and they're one of the smaller teams. I think they've got a really good structure. They've got, you know, Andy Bernal and his wife, you know, run the accommodation for the young players. I mean, they've got a great set. They do a brilliant job. You know, they're probably as close to getting it right as anyone has. But
Kenny, let me give you an example, Kenny. Now, if we still had the NSL here, right, the NSL, we'd have more history. We'd have people, players, everything. And Gary, of course, you could have been a Heidelberg United president if we were still in the NSL, your popularity at the club there, of course. And Kenny, imagine you with that hair, mate, that hair of yours, as a CEO of Sydney Olympic, mate, you would be fighting bloody Laurie McKenna mate, you'd be fighting him for the job. Well, I tell you right now.
Man, I've got more hair than Laurie.
There you go, mate. I tell you what, mate, honestly, but
Heidelberg would have their own hairdresser.
Yeah,
and also,
mate, it takes me 25 minutes to do hair and makeup just for this.
Mate, honestly, mate, that would be the most amazing thing. Kenny, I've got something here, gentlemen. For the Oracle has spoken again, guys. I've got to say this, of course. My God, man, I better find this. We need a revolution to rid the game of the non-football administrators. Mate, he's become, today sounds like bloody Fidel Castro, mate. Fidel Castro here today, mate. Unbelievable, mate. Unreal.
Man, when I think of, you know, the 77, 78, like Gary's team, you know, Gary, Jimmy Campbell, Kenny Taylor,
yes.
Jimmy Rooney. I mean, Arthur McMillan. There was just, the whole lot of them.
Oh.
Well, Hakoa at the time. Alec Robertson and Jimmy Can.
Absolutely.
The late Eddie Thompson. Obviously. Yes. There was that many of them. Marconi. There was so many of them. Mark Yankovic. Tony Henderson. Eva Pascalo. Gary Byrne. It was never ending. Adelaide City. There was so many of them. Obviously, the Niskus brothers. Dixie Deans, Davy Mitchell, and when you go through all these teams, and we've never really utilised the players, in my opinion. And Gary may be right. Maybe we had enough and we moved aside. But unfortunately, we're a bit like the Lone Ranger in Toronto. We look at things and we go, really, is that the best we can do? That's it, right? Let's dust the boots out. Let's get the old Billy's boots out the cupboard and have a look, because if that's the best they can do, get the cap back on.
Oh, mate.
So Kenny, are you involved? Are you involved in the game anymore?
I did my grassroots. I did girls and boys, under 7s, under 15s for nearly 9 years. And I also did my kids' school. I did pizza and soccer for the boys and the girls, or football. So, mate, I was going. I had a few offers that I could have sort of did at the professional level, but I got a bit disgruntled by what I was seeing was happening, and I thought I could put back. I just felt I could put back at the kids level more than I could do at the senior level. I just felt that. Looking at kids and encouraging and I enjoyed it. I had a great time doing it, but it came a time where my two kids who played, my daughter and my son, it gets to a point where they don't want you to coach them. They get to a certain age where, really, Dad? So I sort of stepped back when they hit under 15s, both boys and girls. So I sort of stepped back. I still attend and I still watch, and I still get involved a little bit here and there, but but when I see, I see things at the A-League level, and I look at the players that are coming through, and I look and say, well, I see kids playing. I get especially annoyed with, I see families, single parent families that have 2 or 3 kids, and they're expected to be able to fund, $300 or $400 for registration. That's $1,200. Boots, travel, If it's a mother or a father, they can't do it. And predominantly, they're probably low demographic families, and they're predominantly ethnic, maybe South American or whatever. And they're the talented ones. They've got natural talent, and we lose them, unfortunately. They're slipping through the cracks because they're not getting picked up by senior clubs at an early stage to say, this boy's got some raw talent. Let's invest in them rather than I suppose the grassroots clubs investing in the seniors. The seniors need to be investing in grassroots, and then we'll definitely get an overall improvement in the flow through it. I've got no doubt about it whatsoever. The minute we can, I don't know, Gary was probably the same, because me and Gary are closely the same age. I never paid anything to play football at all, other than my parents buying me boots and a bus fare to get to the games. Nothing. Didn't stop me making it. Played professionally, and back to the point you make, kids have got to be, it comes back to the kid individually. He's got to live with a ball. If he wants to play at a high level, we're talking about if you want to get to the elite level, if you want to just have a bit of fun, and you'll get kids that got sort of natural ability, a bit quick, a bit strong. But if you want to play at the highest level, you've got to live with a ball. You've got to, you've got to take it to school, tennis balls. You've got to play, 2 or 3 games a week. You can't reach the highest level playing 17 games a season.
That's funny you said that, Kenny, because I tell you what, this comes into Craig here right now, and I'll tell you what happened at the Melbourne Victory a few years ago, and I'm sure Gary would know this as well, that Kazuki Honda, he came in, of course he played at Melbourne Victory, and he said, what's going on here? You all went back in early. What he was doing? He was doing his own training on his own, saying apparently the training sessions are too... Not much. Sure. And he was coming on the ground, staying there and training on his own, kicking the ball, doing things. And he was saying, why are you guys leaving the training track now? This is the problem we have here as well, that we do not know how the amount of things they do in Asia compared to us down here. And we are in Asia. And we can't take any example from him to say that there's a lot of hard work to be done if you want to be somewhere. And Honda's there on the ground on his own. The lights are on. They want to turn the bloody lights on. And he's still there bloody training on his own. Gary, you've heard that, haven't you?
No, I have not.
Mate,
that's why I come on the show, because I learn something new every time.
That is a true story.
Gary made a point earlier on about facilities, and it's really interesting because he's right. You know, if a young kid wants to, him and his mates want to go up to a park and play, they can't get any space because all these academies and teams are already training on it.
Exactly.
You can't find a set of goalposts that you can have a game. Back in my day, you know, you could go up to the park, there's plenty of goalposts, you know, you could play till it got dark. Well, we've got a real facility issue at the moment, you know. We really have. You know, where can they play? I mean, I know even, you know, when we were playing as kids, you know, there wasn't a lot of cars on the road. So you could play in the main road, you know, and you'd find a wall where you'd draw with a bit of chalk. You'd draw goals, and you'd play. Gary's laughing at me. He knows what we're talking about. Right? You can't do that.
I've just worked out that you're older than me. That's what it is.
Is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Now, getting back to Tony, the situation with you having Craig there, getting him training, getting extra training, what was he like when he was, did he ever leave the ball out of his hands? Did he ever, of course, I know from the past you've said things that he would never stop the ball. He was on the ball training all the time on his own. What was he like? Were you telling him, come inside, enough is enough? Or did you let him go there?
No, when he was 2, I mean, the oldest lad, Daniel, used to play a bit. Daniel was actually quite gifted as well, but he didn't probably have the same dedication as Craig. But Daniel was very gifted. Craig was just obsessed from the time he was 2. He was never without a ball. He just wouldn't leave it alone. And the Irish uncles used to always comment about it. Yes. He was always, you know, you never see him without a ball. But from when he started playing when he was 4 in under 6s. And that's when I started coaching. I sort of got roped into it because no one else wanted to do it. And I'm lucky enough to meet another guy, Terry Dodd. And Terry was from Liverpool, and the football tragic. And we sort of we worked together really well. And then we had another guy, Tony Still, come on board with us with his lad. And his lad was really good as well. But I think, you know, looking back on it now, we probably got the formula right, because what we wanted to do was from that young age, from under 6s, we wanted the kids to fall in love with the game first. So we made it fun. It was not about winning. I think we won one game in under 6s. We just thought too many coaches now seem so intent on winning games. It means stuff all, because the kids aren't learning if they're winning. But so we worked out little exercises where they go up on the left foot, come back with the right foot. But we take all the data on all the kids and what foot their preferred foot was, and other little attributes, and we worked on them. And I sort of did a little bit of child psychology too to work out what gets inside kids' heads. So, you know, it was great. So I became a little bit obsessed with it. And then once Craig got to 12, that's when I gave the coaching away for him, because I thought I didn't play at any level. So I couldn't teach him anymore. So we had a guy, Bryn Acton, he used to play quite high here in the NSL, a local NSL. And so we let him take the side at under 12, and he was successful with them. So I just think I knew it was the right time to get out, but I still stayed with the team, like other teams that Craig was with, either in a team manager's role, assistant coach, or a trainer work. So it was always in and around it, but we got the formula right. But we played all year round, because once the outdoor season was finished, because in the Elizabeth District Association here, once they get to under 9, they start playing on big pitches with big goals, and all our kids loved it. Because we played, back then we sort of played either a 4-3-3 or a 3-4-3 formation, because the kids loved playing triangles that we taught them. And that was the best 2 formations, to let them play triangles. So then we play indoor, which was like a big, I guess, in-ground sort of tennis court, really, you'd call it, with walls. But then we taught them the principles of playing the wall as a part of the triangle. So whichever way they faced, there was always a triangle. But they were obsessed with it. They just wanted to play like 24/7. So a lot of those kids they loved it. But I don't think under 6s, we won stuff all games. Probably not a lot in under 7s, but under 8s, they really started to gel and understand the principles. When they got to under 9, they were actually a phenomenal side. playing the ball, passing, but using the keeper, if in a way of getting back out, letting him start to play.
You started all that shit.
No, not that one. No. he didn't do anything fancy. Nothing fancy.
Man, it's funny you said that because, when I was 9, I had an epiphany. In my team, I was playing a boys' guild team. I'm a Protestant playing a boys' guild team.
God.
And we were getting smashed 8 or 9 and 10-1. And I thought one night, I'm doing something wrong here. So I learned the lesson. Join a team that has a lot of good players.
Yes.
And I lived that right through the day I retired.
Oh my God.
A wise move.
That joined had lots of good players, right?
Yeah.
The big
kids did enjoy it. They really did enjoy it, So, Craig loved it. I mean, his whole room was just posters of footballers, all over his ceiling. My mum used to come up and stay and just comment about, she couldn't see any of the wall. It was just footballers everywhere she looked. But his favourite was Fernando Torres, so he was obsessed with him. He'd stay up late watching the games. And, but it's, you find the kids, I guess, that are obsessed with it just want to learn. So, it just worries me in this day and age now that we've got so many kids that want to play and clubs can't accommodate them. They don't have the facilities to accommodate them.
The thing about this is what we're talking about here is the big example is in Brazil. The big of course, we're talking about more facilities for the kids to play and whatever. Now, when we that World Cup in Brazil, right? That World Cup in Brazil, that was the past one, to see these kids in the favelas mucking around the round ball, making balls, these little things like this. How we can, Kenny, you and me have to go to Brazil for a fact-finding mission, Kenny. We have to go there, mate, for the favelas there, take a documentary and check these kids what they're doing.
I've been to Rio and I got my watch next. I ain't going
back.
Oh no,
here we go. We will go with less stuff. How's that? But this is what we need to go to these places where these kids are doing funny things. And of course, Gary, if you ever seen some of the documentaries in the game in Brazil and how these kids were found as fantastic players and all the little things that they muck around with every day. You're talking about on the beaches. They've got the ball on the beaches every day on the beaches. You've got funny ways of actually using the ball in the streets and everything. This is what we don't have here. If we had that type of, they're not even facilities. They're not even facilities, Gary. They're just areas that
but this is the problem we're living in. Not living in a third world country where you've got affluent people, and all of our kids have got iPads and iPhones, and they've got apps and PlayStations, and all. Most of what most kids do is device oriented. So the you're talking about how old's Craig, Tony?
31 now. So 32 in December.
Yeah. So 30, less than 30 years ago, Craig was doing that. But how many kids in Australia today do you reckon are doing that sort of thing? I'm sure there are some, because there were some that will be football nuts in football nut families that are doing that stuff. But I have no idea about how we can go from where we are with the success financially that we find ourselves in compared to the abject poverty in those parts of the world when, if they've got a scrunched up bit of paper, they've got a ball and they've got something to play on dirt. They don't need a pitch or a bit of grass. They're out there doing what they do.
That's right, Gary. Subsequently, that's why the best players in the world are African, South American still. All the best players are coming through Africa or South America, because they're still predominantly third world and predominantly don't have the iPads, don't have the, they're on the beaches to play. So that's why they're still producing them. And you're right. You're right. We have a real, issue because we're quite we're a middle class country, and we're quite affluent predominantly, and we tend to give our kids pretty much whatever they want. We're driving cars at 17, 18, and it's a different lifestyle. So what the answer is, I don't really know, but certainly something's got to change. But the one upside with football is no matter what happens, if the A-League doesn't survive, it always rises from the ashes. It always rises from the ashes. Now my thoughts on the A-League, I think they'll be lucky to get through the year. But the good thing about Danny Townsend going across there, I would believe, and I think he's a real smart boy, that it wouldn't surprise me for a consortium to come back at some stage in the next couple of seasons, or even sooner, to buy the competition.
Yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Now, let me just say right now, King Kenny's spoken, gentlemen, and his example of what he's to do, his development. Now, this is what you guys want to hear. And Kenny Wilson, you know where this is. He says, King Kenny says, I grew up on the beaches of Salt Coast. What is this place?
No, that's Salt Coast, mate.
Salt Coast.
But Salt Coast is only... Salt Coast is like a centre circle. That's why what Gary says, because he never comes out of the centre circle, right?
Oh my
That's
God.
the reason. It's one big circle with a dot in the middle. Right?
So Kenny, what did you do as you were? Of course, there was no iPads when you were there in Scotland, of course. And what were you guys doing to fill up your time? Of course, you must have had some kind of ball made up from anything like socks or something and stuff like that, or whatever.
Mate, I wasn't that poor, but I had a ball. But
Okay.
Well, I have to say, normally the little fat kid had the ball.
Yes.
And he had the goalkeeping gloves. So the fat kid in the street, you always went and knocked at his door.
Oh my God!
And
That's
consistently, Harry.
That's me.
Like the game finished when his mother called him and told him he had to come in at night. That was that.
That's it.
It wasn't next goal the winner. It was when the fat kid went in. It was his ball. He took the ball and you went in. Right.
Guess who the fat boy was with the ball?
Yeah.
Me.
So Kenny Taylor. No. Kenny
Bloody
Taylor
hell,
was a
mate.
bit tubby. Kenny Taylor was a bit tubby in his early days. I saw some baby pictures of that.
Oh my God! I tell you,
You're from Glasgow. You probably stole the ball.
oh mate, honestly,
In actual fact, Kenny Taylor was the first cross-dressing footballer that I knew.
what?
When I went to Ipswich Town,
He's going to be writing something. He'd be writing something the minute you watch.
when me and Alec went to Ipswich Town, as kids on trial, and Kenny was signed there. He took us to Miss Selfridge to shop in Ipswich. Miss Selfridge, high waistband pants.
Oh, Jesus, mate.
I was 6 foot tall. I never needed platforms.
Don't say anything too bad, because you know what the world has become, don't you? You know what the world's become now. That's the thing about that. That's funny what you said, Kenny. They've asked me, please don't sing this song at the markets, Harry. You want to laugh your head off? And guess what song it was? Don't sing anymore. Too many complaints.
Yeah?
She bangs. Oh, my God, Ricky Martin. Can't sing it anymore, mate. She bangs. Yeah. What a joke. Anyway, what can I do?
I've told you for this show, you've got to, it's about time you moved on. You've got to do the Brady Bunch.
You've told me, that's right.
You've got to do it and just change the lyrics.
We've got to get 6 guys on here. Exactly. That's the thing. So I tell you what, guys, we could go on forever here tonight, but I tell you what, gentlemen, what I want to say also is the game, and this is a joke. Of course, we thought about, let's get out of Oceania. Let's actually go into a better competition overseas to Asia. Here we are playing. The Matilda's playing. Of course, people are going to be saying something in a minute too about, here we go. We're playing Iran. The girls 2-0, and they should have beaten them at least 20-0 as far as I'm concerned. And here we are playing the Philippines 8-0, and 59,000 people at Optus Stadium in Perth, Gary. Come on. And the Socceroos in a few weeks' time are playing who? Tony, who are we playing in a few weeks' time? My God, Bangladesh, mate. They're better at cricket than bloody that game. Our game.
Don't knock it, mate. There's about 30,000 Uber drivers in Melbourne.
My God, mate. Honestly, guys.
Mate, you won't be able to, mate, I'm telling you now, I guaranteed on the 17th, the game, you won't be able to get a home delivery in Melbourne. I'm telling you,
mate. Oh my God, mate! I tell you what, mate. They'll be getting at the filling up the shops themselves, going to the shops and buy fish and chips. Jesus, mate.
Quick shout out, Craig got 2 goals the other day. Well done.
Yes, fantastic, mate. Absolutely amazing.
He scored Jordan Henderson's shirt as well, and also had a photo op with Steven Gerrard.
Oh, brilliant!
Fantastic.
And Gerrard actually had a lot of. Because I said, "Did you get to speak to him?" He said, "Yeah, I did." He said he told me. He said that their pre-game was about having to shut Craig's space creation down,
God, mate.
Which he thought was great. But what's funny is Craig didn't play on the wing on the weekend. He actually played as a number 10.
Brilliant.
So he banged in 2, and of course I don't think they may have seen him going to be starting as a 10. They would have seen him starting as a winger.
Well, they lost the next game, didn't they? Gerrard's team got beat. After that, he lost the next game, Steve Gerrard's team, didn't he?
They lost. Well, they played. I'm not sure because I know they got a cup. Alweta got a cup game this week, so maybe Steve's already had that game. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they lost. Yeah, I think they got beat.
Yeah, they might have had their cup game. So I think this week's all cup games.
Yeah,
Well, they were on the semi-finals anyway.
Now, I'm hoping that I don't make a mistake here, Gary, because Kenny had a go at me a few weeks ago, and I'm going to say this right now. And Gary, of course, we're going to have the second coming of the NSL, Gary. The second coming of the NSL is on its way. Now, I hope you lose $50 tonight. You haven't lost $50. I think Kenny's going to pay Kenny tonight $50 tonight about that one. Now, Gary, how do you feel now? We're talking about here the second division. We're going to call it NSL2, of course, NSL2, whatever it is. But let me say, this gives opportunities for more kids to come into the game. They're going to get more involvement in the game to play during the winter time. Right now, I have some news for you guys. Yesterday, I found out, I can't mention the teams. There are 8 teams now chosen. And I won't say the teams, I can't say them, but 8 teams. Kenny, don't nod your head, Kenny. It's always having in your mind. 8 teams.
It's like going on your honeymoon, mate.
I'll tell you what.
Leave me alone.
But Gary, it is a good. Look, they're talking about, of course, relegation, promotion. Of course, there are a few things happening right now with Football Australia. I can't mention too much, but 8 clubs, and they are the majority of NSL clubs. Now, how do you feel? We do need a second division. I'm sure you do know that, for more development of players, because we don't have enough teams in the A-League, of course. There's not enough teams there. So kids aren't getting a fair go.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity for players. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for coaches, because there'll be more of that. The challenge is who's paying for it and how's it going to run. Is it a full-time competition? What's that, 8 teams? That's only 14 games if they play each other twice. Well, they'll play each other 3 times.
There's more teams. There's more teams coming. There's more teams coming as well.
Okay, which is good. And look, you want it to be as professional as we can make it, because if it's just the NPL, then I'm not quite sure why you do it. So, the old rising ship, the rising tide raises all ships thing again. You want the quality to come up. I think everyone wants it to be full time, just like the second tiers are around the world. I'm not quite sure where the money's coming from to fund that. I'm not quite sure how many of those old NSL clubs can afford a full-time professional program, but I really, really hope they can find a major sponsor or something to make it work, because wouldn't it be great if it was almost an under-23 competition? That isn't going to happen.
No.
But wouldn't it be great that we had a place for some of the best young talent in Australia to play regularly? Because there are still plenty of them. Adelaide's a bit unique. I think Central Coast is unique. They're bringing through. Brisbane, Ross Aloisi bringing youngsters through in Brisbane, but that's the exception in the A-League than the rule. There are many young players are in those A-League squads and they don't get a look in. So
exactly.
It would be terrific if somehow those kids got an opportunity to play, and we can throw more 15, 16-year-olds, ones that have got a great background. They're strong enough and big enough to play, and you can get them in there with some good experience around them, and hopefully we can produce Socceroos for the future.
And of course, Gary, we are talking about that club of yours, Heidelberg United. Of course, I heard some rumours yesterday. These are pretty clear. Apparently, they got Johnny Anastasiadis. Somebody's throwing some bucks at Heidelberg right now, a bit of money there to get him in there.
Right.
And Johnny A's been approved. He's now the new coach of Heidelberg United. And now they're saying that now because he's in there, some guy by his name is Harry as well. I'm not going to say any more. He's putting money. You know who it is. I'm not going to say any more. But he's putting money for them to be back into the mix for the second division. So, mate, they've improved their ground. You've seen the ground. It's fantastic what they've done out there. Beautiful, fantastic.
Yep. Council's helped them. It really is a nice venue now.
And they're building a new club room apparently. New club rooms are on the cards as well. I've heard as well. So there you go.
I think council's helped them a lot, Harry. And look, they weren't going to go. You know, the current administration, Steve, that's done a remarkable job there rebuilding them. Was just looked at it and went, no, we can't afford to do this. So it's interesting that's a turnaround there.
A turnaround.
Johnny A obviously left Western United at the end of last season, looking for more opportunity. And he's another great Australian coach that's come through, played for the Socceroos, obviously had a great professional career in Europe, and has an assistant coaching gig in the A-League. But as many of them do, it's tough for them to get an opportunity to move from A-League assistant to A-League head coach. So hopefully it's the beginning of something great for Johnny A as well.
Are you going to announce the new sponsor that the family got?
The new sponsor?
Yeah, the farmers. Yeah, no, a farmer wants a wife who's going to sponsor him.
Here we go, mate. Here we go. Oh, mate, I've got a heart. I tell you what, mate.
I'm telling you now, mate,
we're gonna have fun in Sydney, mate. We're gonna have fun in Sydney. Go on.
Here's the promise: if they get 12 teams into that comp, I'll go on Love Island. There you go.
Oh my, Kenny, I don't want you to. I have other. What do they call those things? Dares. There's a dare that I could tell you could do, but I won't say it. Actually, I'm not going to say anything. Can't say anything, guys. I have something here for you too, Gary. One of the gentlemen here from Preston, Macedonia, we call them. He says, Gary, Heidelberg United or Preston? Oh, here we go. Whoa, here we go. This is hard.
Heidelberg or United or Preston?
Yes.
To do what? Is there a question here, or
well, he just said
mentioning two of my former clubs?
Choose one. He says, which one's the best one that you played for? That's what he's saying. This is a hard one.
Which one was the best one? Well, as a player, I had more success at Heidelberg. They were great times through the early days of the NSL. Didn't experience any on-field success at Preston, but we had a great time. Some great players. We all lived in the southeast of Melbourne. There was Graham Hayes, Robbie Dunn, Ian Dobson. Jeez. We used to drive together, and on a Thursday night, it was a 6-pack trip in the car, talking about how good we were all going to be on the weekend. Didn't have a whole bunch of success. I tell you, they are as passionate as football fans as we get in Australia, and they've done a great job of rebuilding that club.
Gary.
So, I'm sitting on the fence. They were both fantastic. They were both great for me,
mate,
and I enjoyed.
Gary, you have no idea what their supporters. I've turned up there. I've looked at the ground. I said, how many people are here? 5,000, just over 5,000 people at the NPL games. Sure you've been there? Yeah. That reminded me of the NSL full stop. Honestly, man, that was, and they're screaming, Macedonia. Mate, I'm joining in with them. I can't do it. I've got to join in with them. And I couldn't, but mate, the passionate supporters that they've got. Yeah, Kenny, well, you turn up to one of the Preston games in Sydney playing Olympic, and mate, that's a challenge, that one, mate. If they turn up there, I tell you what.
I mean, the Macedonians, are very, very passionate. I mean, they were great atmospheric games, I've got to say. I mean, Olympic Heidelberg they were our sister club. So we had great games against them. It was brilliant. Back in the days when you had real derby games, South Melbourne Olympic, Marconi Apia. Yeah, there was so many of them, and I think that's probably what's missing with the non-history in the A-League.
That's what's going on.
By sort of draw. Although they keep saying there's not any ethnic teams in the A-League, but what do you call Macarthur? What do you call Western Sydney Wanderers? You're not telling me they're no Croatian teams.
That's right.
You're not telling me that Melbourne Victory is not a Croatian team. I mean, it's wolves in sheep's clothing, isn't it? Really?
Yes. And one thing I'll tell you about Preston, I've turned up to Preston Macedonia one night, of course, and here comes it. Thank you, Harry, for coming. I said, it won't be many people today. I'll be about 3,000. I said, what? You're telling me that 3,000 is not a good crowd for this place? Mate, sometimes getting 6,000 people. Sometimes when they were playing Melbourne City in that NPL2, my God, mate, honestly, Gary, mate, and they're building a brand new stadium on the other side as well. The council are building a brand new stadium. Jeez, they got money.
Mate, I'll tell you, Western Sydney Wanderers played on Saturday night, right? 7:30 kickoff on Saturday night, right? And some supporter, somebody posted and said, there was only 7,500 people there.
What?
And I said, yeah, but there was 50,000 of us went to see Paul McCartney just down the road. And you know what his response was? They must be over 50. None of the Western Sydney Wanderers fans know who Paul McCartney was.
Oh, my God.
no idea.
Yeah, crazy, mate, honestly.
Imagine having the game at the same time as a 50,000 attended Paul McCartney concert at the same time in Sydney. Really, they're off their heads.
Mate, this is just unbelievable. But I tell you what,
Cat was at Paul McCartney.
Oh, there I saw him I saw it on Facebook. Yeah. My God, he wouldn't go to a game. Oh God, here we go. I've got to tell him off for that, mate.
The bloke says no one would know who Paul McCartney is. Really?
Oh my God.
Okay, 50,000. Right.
Jeez.
Anyway.
Of course, before we go, I get Tony back on again. Tony, your time, of course, we've spoken about this many times. This is the last one, actually, guys. You've seen the derbies of Adelaide City and West Adelaide and all that mate, the Italians and the Greeks going at each other and all this, mate. This is what we want back, Kenny. We want this back, Kenny. This is what we want. And of course, at that little stadium, at Hindmarsh Stadium, mate, that little stadium, you would have seen some things go crazy there, Tony, of course.
It was all terraces, basically, except for the Western Grandstand. It was only a small Western Grandstand. I think the north, south, and east were all terraced. And it was great. The atmosphere was incredible. It's just you'd pack everyone along the steps, and then some people sat, most people stood, because otherwise you didn't get to see the game. But the atmospheres were amazing. And even though you look South Melbourne and West Adelaide, at Hindmarsh, that was another rock ship. That was unbelievable. That was just really, really, just atmosphere was incredible. And it was great. Going to watch both of them.
Harry, your shows are going longer than the Bruce Springsteen.
I can't believe this, mate. This is going bad. Sorry, Gary. Sorry, Gary. We don't want this to happen in Sydney, that's for sure. Mate, honestly.
If you want me on again, I want you to buy me a pair of pajamas.
Wait till we get to Sydney. Wait till I get to Sydney, mate. I'll fix you up in Sydney. I tell you what, this is unbelievable. Mate, this is the only show that's got everything, mate. It's got everything, this show, of course. But Gary, one more. When you played South Melbourne, Heidelberg United, South Melbourne, mate, you must have seen some crap in the terraces, mate, there for sure. You would have seen some stuff that we're missing. We're missing right now in the A-League, eh?
Thousands of passionate fans screaming and chanting. It was just, they were great. And you know what? It's probably the same in Sydney. Winning those games was almost more important to the fans than doing well in the league. You could finish halfway down the table, but if you knocked off South Melbourne twice, home and away, it was straw rats and trumpets. Everyone just loved it. It was they were fantastic times. I think about playing at Olympic Park. I played at Olympic Park for Heidelberg because that was their home ground for a short period of time, for Victoria and for Australia, and it was just a great pitch, great place to play, always a great atmosphere, and but then, it was it really was a great league. There were some fantastic people played. And they were great times. Exactly. One of the things that really sticks out is that you can talk to any of them. You might not have seen some of those people that because back in the days as well, they would kick the shit out of one another for 90 minutes and then go into the bar and have a beer. I think that's and that used to fix a lot of problems. That did. I think that's changed in many of the game today, but. You can catch up with those people, and you might have kicked one another the last time you met, but now you give one another a hug, tell them you love them, and just wish them well. It's the camaraderie of football that will keep it. It's very different. Passionate for so long.
Yeah, I still laugh. 1979. Sam Papastavas was the chairman of the PSL, and obviously the chairman of South Melbourne. And they finished below us in the league, and we get relegated, and they stayed in. I mean, really, it can only happen. It can only happen in Australia. Honest to God, dead set.
God, unbelievable.
Good and creative governance. They call it.
A bit of money in somewhere.
You can lead a horse to water. Oh, by the way, we're relegating you. Why? Oh, well, because. Why?
Oh my God, mate! Talk about now. Let me tell you guys about next week's show. This is very different, Kenny, and of course Gary, and you guys, and of course this is a guy that played for Newcastle Breakers. You might know him. His name is Dane Sharp. He played for Newcastle Breakers. He also played for Queen's Park Rangers in England. He was a representative for Nike as well, and he's become a musician. He's got a #1 hit in the charts at the country charts, and I know him well because he's played with the same musicians I've worked with in Brisbane and everything. So he's coming on to we're going to be doing a bit of a football style music show next week. So this is going to be very interesting, Kenny. You might even actually sing with us a little bit too. You know.
Mate, I can do my way because I know all the lyrics.
Oh, mate, I'll have to get him to do this next week, guys. But I tell you what,
can we get Jack Zervis on because he's my roadie?
Oh, mate, he's been watching all night. He's been listening.
When I do karaoke, I take Jack with me, and he hooks me up.
Oh my God, this is
roadie, right?
mate. This is an amazing show. I tell you what, this is
do a duet in the opening.
Wait till you hear what happens next week. There's going to be a lot of songs on this show next week, so you guys are going to have to start clapping your hands, Kenny, and of course, Tony. You're going to have to start putting some Mick Jagger bloody wig or something on there or something. Make yourself look like that as well. So that's a thing. So, guys, thank you for joining me. It's going to be next week's going to be fantastic. But thanks, you guys, Gary. Fantastic having you on, mate. The history that you know and we all know. Mate, we've missed it, and that's amazing talking about the old days. Thank you very much, Gary. Guys, next week, don't forget, Dane Sharp is on, gentlemen. You're going to see an amazing show next week, so let's get this happening, guys. So thanks, guys. Football, this was live tonight from the studios of Australia. Thanks, guys. Thank you, guys, for joining me. Thank you. Here we go. And, of course, we finish off with the usual song, of course, guys. The Cup of Life. Let's do it for you. Hup, check it out. Hup. Thanks, Gary. Thank you for coming on, guys. Thank you, guys. Hey, feel it. Thanks. Thank you very much there, Tony. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Don't forget a big show next week, a very different show, music show, football music show. Hey! See you next week, guys, at 10. Not 10 p.m. We've finished. We've gone an hour. We've gone an hour, half an hour more, would you believe? Here we go. Hey, check it out. Unbelievable, guys. Fantastic, guys. Let's do it, guys. Hey! Dane Sharp next week, a big show. The Cup of Life. This is the one. Now is the time. Don't ever stop. We should've known, gotta be strong. We should've known, right from the top. And when you feel the heat, the world is at your feet. No one can hold you back if you really want it. Oh yes, I see it in your eyes. You want the cup of life. Not the days, here you're gonna get it. Dear, tell the guys, good night everybody. See you next week, Monday night at 30 p.m. Football is live again. Hi. Hi guys, Harry Sunday here, letting you know that there's a apparel company that supports the game that you love. It's called ThereIsOnlyOneFootball.com, guys. They've got all sorts of stuff from caps, t-shirts, water bottles, all sorts of accessories, even for your mobile phone. All that sporting stuff you can wear anywhere you want to wear it, guys. That's right. And don't forget the website it's on, ThereIsOnlyOneFootball.com.
There is only one football.